What up, what up? It's Garage GYMHOMIE, and today I'm talking about dating a famous porn star. Is it worth it? Before we get into this here, please click the subscribe button. I got content coming out all the dang time for you. So click subscribe and let's get into this, man. God bless all you. Hope you're feeling amazing, living from the heart, staying out of your head. You know, I hesitated for a long time about making a video about this specific thing. But at the end of the day, man, my goal is to be a maximum service to God and my fellows. So if I could bring some value, or maybe this could help somebody in some way, you know, I just want to give you a picture too of what I come from. You know, so you know the craziness that I come from, and you see the person I am today. So that shows you, you know, that how powerful the 12-step program is, you know, and the power of God and spirituality. And so let's get into it, man. You know, I moved out to Los Angeles, California. I must have been 21 years old. It wasn't long after my mom passed, and I got locked up there, man, 10 days after I was there. And I spent like 4 or 5 months in the LA County jail. And I got out, and I had a buddy there, and we ran the streets together. A guy from Michigan that I knew out there that had also moved out there. And he was trying to get, I don't know what he was doing in the porn industry. He started a website or something. He was starting one. And my memory's fuzzy, but we were walking down Hollywood Boulevard together, and there were 2 girls, and one of them recognized him. And I'm not going to say the names of anybody in here because I had asked this girl a long time ago, the girl who I dated, if I could make a video about it. And we agreed that I just wasn't going to use names because I talk about drug use and stuff. And so anyway, it's not that important anyway, homie. So we're walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and one of these girls recognized him. And I'm homeless at the time, man. I'm like living out of motel. I had just gotten out of jail there, and now I'm stuck there on felony probation. I was fighting a case, and I'm walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and I was living out of a storage locker. It was craziness, man. And these 2 girls recognized him. And I remember we went in the car, and I was on Xannies, and I was just out of my mind, like hardly remember it. If you know anything about Xannies, you don't really remember much while you're on them. And we had a blunt rolling contest in the car, and I just remember I knew through some people who I knew in Hollywood, I knew Snoop Dogg. And so I said to the girls, I was like, do you guys want to hang out with Snoop Dogg? And these 2 girls were porn stars. And the 4 of us were in the car. They're like, yeah, no way, da-da-da. So I gave the number to them, called them. We split ways, man. One of them ended up going to meet up with him or whatever. And then I didn't even remember really any of this till a couple weeks later. I was working at nightclubs in Hollywood. I was working at the door at some nightclubs in Hollywood, deciding who came in the club or not. So I'm working at this nightclub. That's what I was doing while I was living homeless and whatever other, you know, illegal nonsense I was doing on the side. And I said to my boys, like, didn't we hang out with some porn stars a few weeks ago? And he's like, yeah. And then he said the names of them. I said, do you have the one girl's number who I was interested in? And she happened to be, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't find out till after. She was the most popular porn star in the industry at that time. I mean, 100% hands down, the most popular on every big website, and yada yada. So anyway, so I call her. I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. We had a blunt rolling contest in the car. We were hanging out. She's like, yeah, I was hoping you'd call. We ended up getting together that night. and we hit it off. Now, she came to visit me a few days later at a motel that I was staying at, which happened to be with somebody else I knew in the industry who happened to know her. And she came to the motel and she asked me, hey, why don't you pack your stuff up and come over to my place? So she moved me in her place just like that, man, right away. And then I found out just how popular she was. And I dated her for what seemed like 2 years. We dated for a while. And it was insane, man. My head was like this freaking big. It was like I lived in a dang movie, man. Like I came out to LA. I ended up in jail. I ended up on the streets. And then I met the most famous porn star in the industry, who takes me off the streets and moves me in her place, and I date her for a long time. Now, and she was cool as heck. I mean, she couldn't have been cooler. And our relationship was absolutely insane. It got super toxic at the end. A lot of fighting, a lot of craziness, a lot of ups and downs. Dating her, that was my first exposure to crystal. And turns out it's like huge in the porn industry. First time I seen it or tried it, that's where I was. And, you know, it just turned out to be the most insane sexual stimulant ever. It was, I don't know if you know anything about crystal, it's just like crystal, sex, and they're just hand in hand. And that's all it is. That's the only place my head goes when it's with that drug. It's just absolutely sexual insanity. It's just like a freaking animal and completely one-track minded. And so I could see why it flows around the porn industry so much. And the way I acted, man, was absolute. I was so out of my freaking mind. I mean, the word got out around my old hometown here in Michigan that I was dating this girl. Everybody was talking about it. Like, my head was so big. The ego and the excitement of that experience was, I can't even explain it. It was like just the ego, just how exciting that was, you know, at the time. And how surreal it is looking back that was me. And like, this is the life I came from. It's hard to believe that I'm even talking about the person I am today, the experiences that I had. And I used to send my family like pictures of like me and this girl, like it was normal that I'm dating a famous porn star. And I didn't say it. I think I told them she's a model, but like everybody at home knew, and the word got back to like my family. They all knew who she was. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's embarrassing looking back because I'm so far into sobriety, thank God, but it's kind of crazy to think about that's what I was like advertising myself as. And the industry was so toxic, man. I would just get up, the craziness of like seeing her pack up to go to these scenes during the day, and I was like acting completely disgusting myself, like bringing girls in the industry and introducing them to like agents who got them set up to do scenes and all this while I was dating her. I mean, it was just like nothing. And just the craziness of the sexual insanity that I went through, how crazy it was, you know, during that time of my life, just how nuts it was, you know, the amount of sex and the craziness and this and that. And, you know, getting sober, I was like, man, how, you know, I had this like fantasy that I was just gonna like be sober but still have this crazy sex life. And man, God certainly had different plans for me, man. So, you know, seeing the industry and being exposed to that and the crystal meth lifestyle, and then, you know, and from smoking it years, you know, to shooting it, to back on heroin and all that, it was just nuts, man. It was just nuts. I mean, I was surrounded by all people in the porn industry constantly, and, you know, just the ego and craziness that came with. It's hard to explain. But, you know, I ended up going to prison, and she wasn't really there, like, through that experience a little bit. We didn't really talk much. She kind of shut down when I went to prison. And then when I got out, I saw her a few times, but it was never really the same, man. It faded out. So that was after just a lot of toxic craziness between me and her. But the point is really, man, that down the road, I found that, like, that was, when was I? I must have been 24 when I went to prison, I think. 2009, I went in. 23 or 24 when I went into the penitentiary. And, you know, so I was dating her when I was 22 to 24, 22 to 23. And then, like, the relationships after that, man, I found that my head was really screwed up about relationships. And that relationship, dating a porn star, really was like a traumatic experience for me, man. Like, super traumatic. The way I thought about sex and thought about sex in relationships, the way that I, you know, caught myself fantasizing, just the craziness in my head, I realized I had to really adjust my thinking to date a porn star. Like, it took a toll on me, man. It really was traumatic. For me to wrap my head around the fact that she was doing porn, I never talked her out of it. I mean, I was like thinking I loved it. You know, I was like, oh, I love that she does this. It's so great. You know, how cool is this? People recognized her in public, and I was with her, and it was just all ego, and very surreal. And so when I got sober, man, I just caught myself with a lot of very, very unhealthy sexual thinking. You know, extremely unhealthy sexual thinking that went into my relationships. And so I had to start really making some decisions, because I would talk to my sponsor about it and be like, man, I think I have like PTSD from that life I lived with dating, you know, porn stars, hookers, you know, being around that industry, you know, the crazy sex life, everything that, the crystal meth life. It was very traumatic, and it took a really big toll on where my head was at sexually. And I finally realized that it was an opportunity for spiritual growth. And so I started to see a therapist for it. And the therapist, I made a video about it, why it didn't pan out. Turns out therapy wasn't what I needed, man. Therapy wasn't what I needed for that. I started going to God from my heart after it didn't work out with the therapist. And I started asking for a healthy sexual mindset. Man, I prayed for like a year for that, like constantly. And I realized I got to take action, man. Like, I can't just pray for a healthy sexual mindset and not take action. First, I committed to stop watching porn. So every time I'd watch porn, I'd fantasize about like doing crystal meth or with this, you know, being with these girls, So I committed to not watching porn. That was the first move. I got rid of all of it, man, whatever was saved on my computer, whatever. And I said, I'll never watch porn again. Boom. I'll never go back to porn again, man. So I used to say things like, yeah, I don't judge people for watching porn, but for me, it's not healthy. You know, for me, it's not good. That's BS, man. I don't think there's no healthy way to watch porn. Porn is absolutely toxic. I'll unapologetically say it. It's absolute mind control. It's an industry. There's no healthy, I don't care what science says about it's healthy for couples to watch porn. There is nothing spiritual that gets me closer to God. We have every decision we make does two things. It gets me further from God, further from my heart, or closer to God. And porn is obvious, man. There's no positive part that it plays in society. There's nothing good about it. It's not healthy for couples. It's not healthy for anybody. And when I gave up porn, man, I'll never go back. Man, I started feeling better. It wasn't long after that, man, that I gave up masturbation also. I'll never go back to that either, ever. So it's been years now, man, years. And I feel, man, God has cleared my head to the point where it's just unbelievable, man. I realize I don't need as much sex as I once thought I did. I'm also getting older. I'm also expending energy in things that I'm passionate about. Helping addicts and alcoholics, making these videos, connecting with you, my workouts, work, family, to everything positive, man. All that drive that I got, not wasted on BS, man, jerking it and watching porn and all that garbage, man. So I highly urge you to take a look at that, man. It helped me tremendously. I feel the most driven, the most powerful, the best, the healthiest I've ever felt in my life. And giving up porn and masturbation, all that, played a huge part of that. I know it in my heart. And brought me closer to God, man. Made me a more spiritual person, a better person. And I hope to God that she's doing well, the girl who I'm talking about in the video. I think she is, and hope she is. We don't really talk, but I did get permission a while back to make the vid, but I'm just not going to use any names. And I just want you to know where I come from, man. The traumatic, the craziness, the sexual insanity that I come from. I mean, to the 10th, it's like the mountaintop of insane. Like, I've been there, man. And, you know, if I could come from that and now today live a spiritual life and have a healthy sexual mindset, anybody can, man. Don't entertain craziness. And I don't know, man. There's not much more I could say about it. I mean, so much happened during that time with her, those years, so many different stories and insanity and freaking, you can't only imagine the insane stories and, you know, craziness that came with it. So maybe I'll share more. I can't even really think about it right now. I'm just glad to be able to share this with you, where I come from, and I hope that it helps some people, man. If you want a healthy sexual mindset, you gotta ask for it. And you got to follow it by taking action and moving forward, man. Getting rid of the things in your life that block you from God. Porn, masturbation, all that nonsense, man. That's like our lowest inhibitions. And it's toxic. So that's what I got, man. God bless all of you. So is it worth it dating a porn star? I'd say it is, because of the spiritual growth that it brought me today. And I don't regret any experiences in my life, man, ever. You know, I'm so grateful for all of them, because they brought me right here, man, to talking with you. God bless all you, man. Together, let's get this dang muscle. I'm out.